Tycoon discovers his ex-wife has twins that look exactly like him. His fingers trembled slightly as he held the unmarked envelope that his assistant had just delivered. Inside, 2 school photos stared back at him, faces that made his heart skip several beats. They could have been photos of himself at 15, down to the slight dimple in their left cheeks and the distinctive arch of their eyebrows. "Sir," his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "The board meeting starts in 5 minutes. Marcus couldn't move. His throat felt dry as sandpaper as he studied the photos more closely. The boys wore the distinctive burgundy blazers of Greenwich Prep, the same school his son Lucas attended. "Sir," the intercom crackled again. "Cancel it," he managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. "Cancel everything for the rest of the day." He reached for his phone, pulling up Lucas's contact. The call connected after 2 rings. "Dad." Lucas sounded surprised. Marcus rarely called during school hours. "Lucas, those new students in your school. The twins. What do you know about them?" There was a pause on the line. "Oh, you mean Adam and Alex? They just started last week. Everyone's talking about them because they're identical. Like scary identical." "Why?" Marcus's hand tightened around the photos. "What's their last name?" "Williams, I think." "Yeah, Williams. Dad, are you okay? You sound weird." The name hit him like a physical blow. Williams. Sarah's name. His ex-wife's name. "I'm fine," he lied, his mind racing through possibilities he didn't want to consider. "I'll pick you up after school today. Okay? But I have soccer practice dash." "Skip it. Please, son. I need to talk to you." After hanging up, Marcus walked to the window, pressing his forehead against the cool glass. 15 years. It had been 15 years since Sarah had disappeared from his life, taking with her only bitter memories and broken promises. Or so he'd thought. The city below continued its endless dance of traffic and humanity, unaware that Marcus Chen's carefully constructed world had just begun to crumble. In his pocket, the photos of 2 boys, mirror images of his younger self, seemed to burn through the paper, through his clothes, straight to his skin. "Sarah," he whispered to his reflection in the glass. "What have you done?" His empire of technology and innovation suddenly felt meaningless compared to the weight of the truth he now held in his hands. 2 boys. His boys. And he hadn't known they existed for 15 years. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, but Marcus saw only the reflection of his own face in the darkening glass. A face now haunted by the knowledge that somewhere in this very city, 2 younger versions of himself were living lives he knew nothing about. "You're never here, Marcus. Never." Sarah's voice echoed through their penthouse, her words cutting through the silence of another late night. "Do you even remember the last time we had dinner together?" Marcus remembered himself, younger and more arrogant, barely looking up from his laptop. "I'm building something important here, Sarah. This company won't grow itself." The sound of Sarah's bitter laugh still haunted him. "Important? More important than us? Than me?" She stood in the doorway of his home office, her silhouette framed by the hallway light. Even in his memory, he could see the tears glistening in her eyes. "You don't understand," he had said, his fingers still typing. "We're on the verge of a breakthrough. This new technology could change everything." "I saw the messages, Marcus." Those words had finally made him stop typing. "What messages?" "The ones from Jessica in R&D. The late-night meetings, the working dinners." Sarah's voice cracked. "Do you think I'm stupid?" "It's not what you think, dash," he had started to explain. But Sarah cut him off. "Then what is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've replaced me with your company and her." The truth was, there had never been anything with Jessica, just a dedicated employee who shared his vision. But he had been too proud, too stubborn to explain properly. Instead, he had said the words that would haunt him for years to come. "If you don't trust me after 7 years of marriage, maybe you should leave." Back in the present, Marcus pressed his palm against the cool glass of his office window. He could still see Sarah's face the moment he'd said those words. The way something had broken behind her eyes, something that could never be fixed. 3 days later, she was gone. No note, no forwarding address. Just empty closets and a divorce petition delivered by her lawyer. "I should have followed you," he whispered to the memory of her. "I should have explained, should have fought for us." His phone buzzed, pulling him back to the present. A text from Lucas. "Dad, you're scaring me. What's going on?" Marcus looked at the photos of the twins again. They had Sarah's nose, he realized. Everything else was him, but that slight upturn at the tip, that was all Sarah. "Mr. Chun." His assistant's voice came through the intercom again. "Sir, there's a call from Greenwich Prep's administration office. They're asking about scheduling a parent-teacher conference for Lucas." Marcus straightened his tie, his CEO mask sliding back into place even as his world continued to spin off its axis. "Tell them I'll call back." He paused, then added, "And get me everything you can find on Sarah Williams' whereabouts for the past 15 years. The sun had fully set now, leaving him alone in the darkening office with ghosts of the past and questions about the future. Somewhere in the city, Sarah was building a life with their children, their twins, and he was determined to understand why she had kept the secret for so long. The weight of 15 years of lost time settled on his shoulders like a lead blanket. But beneath the grief and confusion, something else was stirring. Determination. He wouldn't make the same mistake twice. This time he would fight for his family, all of them. "I buried myself in work," he muttered to himself, scanning through old emails on his laptop. "Built an empire on the ashes of us." His phone lit up with a message from his private investigator. Found her, Sarah Williams, operating a successful design firm downtown. Williams and Associates. Been here for 6 months. Marcus's coffee went cold as he scrolled through the firm's website. There she was, Sarah, 15 years older but still striking. Her smile professional but not quite reaching her eyes in the corporate headshot. The site showcased her impressive portfolio. Sleek interiors, award-winning designs, international recognition. "You did it, Sarah," he whispered. "You built your own empire." A notification popped up, his calendar reminder for Lucas's parent-teacher conference next week. His stomach churned as he realized Sarah would have to attend similar meetings for the twins. They would inevitably cross paths. His executive assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Sir, the board is asking about the Singapore merger. Tell them." He paused, watching a video on the website where Sarah discussed her design philosophy. Her voice, older but familiar, filled his office. "Sometimes the most powerful statements are made in the spaces we leave empty. Sir, tell them I'm dealing with a family matter." He closed the laptop firmly. "And cancel my flights to Singapore next week." Later that evening, as he drove through the city streets, Marcus found himself passing by Sarah's office building. The lights were still on in the top floor, and he could see figures moving behind the frosted glass. He pulled over, killing the engine. "What are you doing, Marcus?" he asked his reflection in the rearview mirror. But he knew exactly what he was doing. He was 15 years too late, sitting outside her office like a teenager afraid to ring the doorbell. His phone rang. "Lucas. Dad, where are you? You said we'd have dinner together." Marcus started the car again, but couldn't resist one last look at the building. A woman's silhouette appeared at the window, tall, elegant, achingly familiar. His heart stopped as she seemed to look directly at his car. "I'm on my way home, son," he said, pulling away from the curb. "And I have something important to tell you." As he drove home, the city lights blurred together like the past 15 years, a streak of missed opportunities and unspoken words. He had built his technology empire on the principle of innovation, of looking forward, never back. But now the past wasn't just catching up. It was demanding to be acknowledged. In his mind, he could still hear Sarah's voice from their last night together. "You can't build a future on silence, Marcus." The irony wasn't lost on him. She had kept the biggest silence of all. But as he approached his penthouse, where Lucas waited, he realized that some silences were about to be broken, and the sound might be deafening. "Time to face the music," he muttered, pulling into his parking space. All of it. The elevator ride to his penthouse felt longer than usual, each floor bringing him closer to a conversation that would change everything. Again. Dad, you're being weird. Like, weirder than usual. Marcus set his briefcase down, studying his son's face. 13 years old, with his mother's gentle features and Marcus's determination. How would he react to knowing he had brothers? Those new kids at school, Marcus began, settling into the armchair across from Lucas. The twins. Tell me more about them. Lucas sat up, raising an eyebrow. Seriously? That's what this is about? They're just these new guys. Everyone's obsessed with them because they're like some clone experiment or something. It's actually kind of annoying. Annoying? Marcus leaned forward. Why? Because they're perfect at everything. Lucas threw his hands up. Alex made the varsity swim team on his first try. Adam's already in advanced placement for like every subject. And get this, they both play piano like they're Mozart or something. The girls are going crazy. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He'd been a swimmer too, and Sarah had insisted on piano lessons throughout their marriage. Have you talked to them? Kind of. Lucas shrugged. Alex sits next to me in chemistry. He's actually pretty cool. Helped me with this really hard equation yesterday. He paused, narrowing his eyes. Dad, why do you care so much about these guys? Marcus pulled out his phone, finding the photos he'd received. Because of this. He handed the phone to Lucas, watching as his son's eyes widened. The color drained from his face as he looked from the photos to his father and back again. They look like... Lucas swallowed hard. Dad, they look exactly like you did in your old high school photos. The ones in Grandma's album. I know, but that would mean... Lucas's voice trailed off as realization dawned. No way. No freaking way. Their mother's name is Sarah Williams. Your ex-wife? The one who left. Lucas stood up abruptly, pacing the room. Are you saying, are they my brothers? Marcus finished quietly. They're your brothers, Lucas. Half-brothers, technically. The phone slipped from Lucas's hand onto the plush carpet. I've been sitting next to my brother in chemistry class, making jokes about Mr. Peterson's bow ties with my actual brother. Lucas dash. Did you know? All this time. Did you know about them? No. Marcus's voice cracked. I found out yesterday, just like you're finding out now. Lucas stopped pacing, his face a storm of emotions. Does Alex know? Does he know who I am to him? I don't think so. Not yet. This is... Lucas sank back onto the couch. This is insane. I have brothers. 2 of them. And they're like the most popular guys in school. He looked up suddenly. Wait, is that why Alex was so nice to me in chemistry? Did he somehow know? Marcus shook his head. No, son. I think he was just being kind. Like his mother always was. A notification pinged on Lucas's phone. A group chat from school. He picked it up, his hands shaking slightly. They're talking about the twins right now. There's a video of them playing piano in the music room after school. Marcus moved to sit beside his son, and together they watched the clip. 2 identical boys, their fingers flying over the keys in perfect synchronization, playing a piece he recognized. The same Chopin nocturne Sarah used to play when she couldn't sleep. Dad. Lucas's voice was small. What happens now? Marcus wrapped an arm around his son's shoulders, feeling him trembling slightly. Now we figure it out together. All of us. Are you going to talk to them? To their mom? I have to. But first, Marcus squeezed Lucas's shoulder. I need to know how you're feeling about all this. Lucas was quiet for a long moment, watching the video loop again. I always wanted siblings, he finally said. I just didn't expect them to come with a 15-year delay and their own fan club. Despite everything, Marcus found himself chuckling. Life rarely gives us what we expect, son. Yeah. Lucas nodded, a small smile forming. Hey, Dad, when you talk to them, can I be there? Marcus felt his heart swell with pride at his son's courage. Of course. We're family, all of us. It's time we started acting like one. The city lights twinkled beyond the penthouse windows, and somewhere out there, 2 boys were heading home to Sarah, unaware that their world was about to change forever. Marcus pulled Lucas closer, grateful for at least one anchor in the storm that was coming. A new post appeared, a candid shot from the school's photography club. The twins were caught mid-laugh in the courtyard. Their identical faces lit up with joy. The caption read, "The Williams twins stealing the show again. #twinning is winning. Mr. Chan." His assistant's voice interrupted through the intercom. "The photos you requested from the school archives have arrived." Minutes later, Marcus was comparing his own high school photos with the twins' social media presence. The resemblance was uncanny, from the way they tilted their heads when concentrating to the slight crook in their smiles. His phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. "Dad, you need to see this. Everyone's talking about it." A video link followed. Marcus's hands trembled as he pressed play. It was footage from the school's morning assembly. The twins were performing a duet, Alex on piano, Adam on violin. But it wasn't their musical talent that made Marcus's heart stop. It was their expressions, the way they communicated without words, the subtle nods and shared glances. "Just like Sarah and me," he whispered, remembering how they used to finish each other's sentences, how a single look could convey an entire conversation. The comments under the video were flooding in. "Those Williams twins are literally perfect smiling face with hard eyes. Anyone else think they look like a young Marcus Chan? Eyes, OMG yes. I thought I was the only one who noticed." Marcus closed his laptop abruptly, his heart racing. It was happening, people were starting to notice. The carefully constructed walls of silence were crumbling. His phone rang. Lucas again. "Dad, it's going viral. Everyone's making the connection. Alex asked me in chemistry if I knew why people kept saying he looked like my dad." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "What did you say?" "I panicked. Told him I had to go to the bathroom." "Dad, what do we do?" Before Marcus could respond, another call came through. An unknown number. His assistant's voice followed immediately on the intercom. "Sir, there's a Sarah Williams on line 2. She says it's urgent." The world seemed to stop spinning for a moment. 15 years of silence, and now, "Lucas, I'll call you back," he managed to say, his finger hovering over the button to accept Sarah's call. He took a deep breath, straightened his tie, a nervous habit from their married days, and pressed accept. "Marcus," Sarah's voice, older but still achingly familiar, filled the line. "We need to talk." "Yes, we do." He struggled to keep his voice steady. 15 years worth of talking, I'd say. Not over the phone. There was a tremor in her voice. He recognized fear mixed with determination. "Meet me at Riverside Park, by the old carousel. Tonight at 7. Sarah, wait bring Lucas," she added quickly. "The boys, they should all meet properly, as brothers." Before he could respond, she hung up, leaving him with the echo of her voice and 1,000 unasked questions. His phone immediately lit up with another notification. A new post on the school's page had gone viral. Someone had created a side-by-side comparison of Marcus's old Forbes cover photo with a recent picture of the twins. The caption read, "The resemblance is uncanny. What's the story here, Chen Technologies?" Eyes Marcus stared at the images, at the truth that was now spreading across the internet like wildfire. In a few hours, his carefully managed public image, Sarah's years of secrecy, and 3 boys' lives would collide at a carousel in Riverside Park. He reached for his phone again, dialing Lucas. "Dad, get your homework done early today. We're meeting someone at 7. "Is it?" "Yes, it's time to meet your brothers. And their mother." The silence that followed was heavy with 15 years of secrets, about to break like a storm over New York City. "My hands are sweating," Lucas whispered, pacing near the bench where Marcus sat. "Is this what having a panic attack feels like?" Before Marcus could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps made them both freeze. Sarah appeared first, her silhouette backlit by the setting sun. She looked different yet exactly the same, her dark hair now streaked with subtle gray, her designer outfit reflecting her success. Behind her, 2 tall figures emerged from the shadows. "Hello, Marcus." Sarah's voice wavered slightly. "Lucas." The twins stood slightly behind their mother, their expressions a mirror of confused anticipation. They wore matching gray hoodies with their school's logo, hands stuffed in their pockets, a gesture Marcus recognized as his own nervous habit. "Sarah," Marcus managed, standing slowly. "Boys, Alex, or was it Adam?" stepped forward first. "Mom, what's going on? Why are we meeting Mr. Chun? And why does everyone at school keep saying we look like him?" Sarah took a deep breath, her hands clasping and unclasping. Because he's your father." The words hung in the air like suspended glass, ready to shatter. The twins' reactions were instantaneous and identical. Their eyes widened, jaws dropped, bodies tensing. "What?" They spoke in unison, their voices cracking. "That's why you moved us back here?" Adam said, realization dawning on his face. "That's why you chose Greenwich Prep. And that's why Lucas." Alex turned to look at his chemistry partner, understanding flooding his features. "You're our brother." Lucas stepped forward, his voice stronger than Marcus expected. "Half-brother." "Yeah, I can explain everything," Sarah began, but Marcus cut in. Can you explain 15 years of silence, Sarah? 15 years of keeping my sons from me? Your sons." Sarah's voice sharpened. "You mean the sons you didn't know existed while you were building your precious empire? The sons I raised alone while you were making headlines and fortune? Because you never told me." Marcus's voice rose, years of hurt breaking through his composed exterior. "You just disappeared." "Stop it," one of the twins, Adam, shouted. "Just stop." Everyone fell silent, the carousel's gentle music the only sound in the gathering dusk. "Our whole life," Adam continued, his voice shaking, "we asked about our father. You told us he wasn't ready to be a dad, that he chose his work over family. But you were already gone when you found out about us. Weren't you, Mom?" Alex added, his analytical mind putting the pieces together. "He never actually chose anything because he never knew we existed." Sarah's composure cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I was hurt and angry and scared. By the time I found out I was pregnant, the divorce was already final. You were becoming this huge success." She looked at Marcus. "And I couldn't bear the thought of being just another headline. Tech mogul's ex-wife pregnant with twins." Lucas, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "So instead, you made sure we all grew up alone. Them without a father, me without siblings. All of us missing pieces we didn't even know we had." The wisdom in his words seemed to stun everyone into silence. The carousel continued its endless rotation, the painted horses moving up and down, like the waves of emotion washing over the group. "We have your dimples," Alex said suddenly, looking at Marcus. "Mom always said they came from her side of the family." A choked laugh escaped Sarah's throat. "I'm so sorry, all of you. I thought I was protecting you, but maybe I was just protecting myself." Marcus took a step forward, his eyes meeting Sarah's. "We can't change the past 15 years, but we're all here now. Maybe that's where we start." The twins exchanged a look, having one of those silent conversations that only identical siblings can have. Then, simultaneously, they moved forward, closing the circle that had been broken for so long. "So," Adam said, glancing at Lucas, "does this mean I can copy your chemistry homework now that we're brothers?" The tension broke as unexpected laughter rippled through the group. Even Sarah smiled through her tears. As the last rays of sunlight faded from the sky, 5 people stood by an old carousel in Riverside Park, beginning the complicated process of becoming a family 15 years late, but perhaps right on time. His phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Hey, Mr. Chun, Dad, is it okay to call you that? Anyway, about that chemistry test tomorrow." Before he could respond, another message popped up from Adam. "Don't listen to Alex. He's trying to get help with stoichiometry. But I was wondering if maybe we could talk about music." Marcus found himself smiling at the phone screen, recognizing his own tendency to dive into work when emotions became overwhelming. A notification from a news website made his smile fade. "Breaking? Tech billionaire Marcus Chen's secret family revealed? Viral photos suggest hidden heirs. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Sir, Parr is having a meltdown. The story's everywhere. Get Sarah Williams on the line, he replied, his CEO voice firmly in place. And clear my schedule for the afternoon. Minutes later, Sarah's face appeared on his video call screen. She looked tired, her designer outfit replaced by a casual sweater. I've already had 3 magazines offer exclusive interviews, she said without preamble. The boys can't even get to their classes without being photographed. We need to control this narrative, Marcus began, but Sarah cut him off. Control? Marcus, these are our children, not a corporate merger. I know that, he softened his tone, but they deserve privacy to figure this out without the whole world watching. A knock at his office door interrupted them. Lucas stood there, still in his school uniform, looking unusually serious. Dad, the twins are downstairs. Security didn't want to let them up, but they're pretty persistent. Marcus and Sarah exchanged looks through the screen. Let them come up, they said simultaneously, then shared a startled laugh at their synchronicity. Moments later, Adam and Alex burst into the office, their usual confidence somewhat shaken. Everyone knows, Alex blurted out. It's all over Instagram, Twitter, everything. Adam pulled out his phone, reading, Chen Technologies heir apparent Lucas Chen may have to share the empire with newly discovered twin brothers. They're calling us the secret Chen twins. I'm so sorry, boys. Sarah's voice from the screen made them jump. This isn't how any of this was supposed to happen. Actually, Adam straightened his shoulders, looking remarkably like Marcus in that moment. Maybe it's better this way. No more secrets, right? Lucas, who had been hovering by the door, stepped forward. He's right. And honestly, it's kind of cool having famous brothers, even if they're nerds who need help with chemistry. Hey, Alex protested, but he was grinning. At least we can help you with calculus. Marcus watched the 3 boys, something tight in his chest loosening. On the screen, Sarah was watching too, her eyes soft with unshed tears. We should make a statement, Marcus said quietly. All of us together. Show them we're not a scandal. We're a family finding our way back to each other. The prodigal father speaks, Sarah murmured, but there was no bitterness in her tone, only a hint of their old teasing. Mom, the twins said together. Then Alex continued, we want to use Chen as our last name. Sarah's sharp intake of breath was audible even through the speakers. Are you sure? Marcus asked, his heart racing. You don't have to dash. We want to, Adam said firmly. We've spent 15 years being the Williams twins. Maybe it's time to be Chen brothers instead. Lucas moved to stand between his newfound brothers. Chen brothers. I like the sound of that. Marcus looked at Sarah's image on the screen, seeking permission, approval, understanding. She nodded slowly, a small smile playing at her lips. Well, they certainly have your flair for dramatic decisions. The afternoon sun streamed through the office windows, illuminating the 4 Chen men, 1 established, 3 emerging, as they stood together for the first time. Outside, the media storm was gathering force, but in that moment, in that office, something broken was finally beginning to heal. So, Alex broke the moment with a grin. About that chemistry test. Don't push it, Marcus and Sarah said in unison, causing everyone to burst into laughter. The sound echoed through the office, years of separation dissolving in the simple joy of being together, finally whole. They're already inside, Lucas reported, scrolling through messages. Alex says the press is everywhere. The school's historic building loomed ahead, its Gothic architecture now framed by camera flashes and reporters. This would be their first public appearance as a complete family. Mr. Chen. The reporters surged forward as they stepped out of the car. What do you say about the allegations, Dash? Is it true these boys are your Dash? Marcus raised a hand, silencing the crowd with the authority of a man who commanded boardrooms. All questions will be addressed inside. They made their way through the chaos, Lucas walking close to his father's side. Inside the grand hall, the atmosphere shifted from frenzied to elegantly tense. Conversations hushed as they entered, then resumed in excited whispers. Sarah stood near the stage, stunning in a midnight blue gown, speaking with the school's headmaster. The twins, matching in perfectly tailored suits, flanked her like young guards. When she turned and saw Marcus and Lucas approaching, her practiced smile faltered slightly. "You came," she said softly as they drew near. "We're done running from this," Marcus replied, equally quiet. Adam and Alex straightened their spines simultaneously, a gesture so reminiscent of Marcus that several nearby parents did double takes. "Ladies and gentlemen," the headmaster's voice boomed through the speakers. "Please welcome our keynote speaker for this evening, Mr. Marcus Chun." The crowd's applause felt like thunder. Marcus moved toward the podium, but paused, turning back to Sarah. "Come with me," he said, extending his hand. "All of you." Sarah's eyes widened. This wasn't part of the plan, wasn't part of the carefully crafted statement their PR teams had prepared. "Marcus Dash, no more hiding," he said firmly. "No more secrets." The twins exchanged glances, then stepped forward. Lucas followed, and finally, Sarah took Marcus's offered hand. At the podium, Marcus looked out over the sea of faces: parents, teachers, press, all waiting for the scandal to unfold. Instead, he smiled. "Many of you know me as the CEO of Chun Technologies. Some of you know me as Lucas's father." He paused, his hand still holding Sarah's. "Tonight, I stand before you as something more, a man who's been given a second chance at family." Sarah's hand trembled in his, but she didn't pull away. 15 years ago, I made choices that prioritized success over love. I lost my wife. He glanced at Sarah, whose eyes were bright with unshed tears. And unknown to me, I lost the chance to watch my sons grow up. The twins stood straighter, their faces mirrors of pride and uncertainty. But life has a way of coming full circle. Today, I stand here with all three of my sons, Lucas, Adam, and Alex, and their remarkable mother, Sarah Williams, who raised two extraordinary young men while building her own successful career. The room was silent now, hanging on every word. "We're not a scandal," Marcus continued, his voice strong. "We're a family. One that's been broken, yes, but one that's finding its way back together. And if there's anything I've learned in business, it's that sometimes the most valuable acquisitions are the ones that remind us of what we lost along the way." Sarah let out a small laugh that might have been a sob. The twins moved closer to their mother, while Lucas stepped nearer to his father. "So yes, the rumors are true. Yes, these are my sons. All of them. And yes," he turned to Sarah, his voice softening, "I should have fought harder 15 years ago." The silence in the room was deafening until Alex, the chemistry enthusiast, whispered loudly enough for the microphone to catch. "Well, that was way better than my molecular bonds presentation." The tension broke as laughter rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment. 5 people on a stage, no longer hiding, no longer running, just standing together as the complicated, imperfect family they were becoming. As the applause washed over them, Sarah leaned close to Marcus's ear and whispered, "You always did know how to command a room." "I learned from losing you," he whispered back. "Some lessons take 15 years to sink in." The twins were already plotting something. Marcus could see it in their identical grins. Lucas was typing furiously on his phone, probably updating his friends. But for that moment, on that stage, they were just a family broken pieces finally finding their way back together, under the bright lights of a school gala and the even brighter glare of public scrutiny. The story would be in every paper tomorrow, but for once, Marcus didn't care about the headlines. He had everything he needed right here on this stage. Tech Titans twin revelation rocks Manhattan elite. Chun dynasty expands. The secret sons emerge. From 224. The Chun family saga. A knock at the door interrupted his reading. Adam and Alex stood there, still in their pajamas. They'd stayed overnight in the penthouse's guest rooms, along with Sarah, after the gala. "Can we talk?" Adam asked, his usual confidence wavering. Always, Marcus replied, clearing space on his desk. The twins entered, taking seats across from him. In the morning light, their resemblance to his younger self was even more striking. "We want to know everything," Alex began. "About you and Mom. About why you really split up. No PR version, no sanitized story for the press. The truth." Marcus leaned back, studying their faces so young, yet carrying such old pain. "The truth," he echoed, then called out, "Sarah, I know you're listening." There was a pause. Then Sarah appeared in the doorway, wearing one of Marcus's old Harvard sweatshirts she'd found in the guest room closet. The sight of her in it, just like 15 years ago, made his heart skip. "They deserve to know," she said softly, entering the room. "We were young," Marcus began, his eyes meeting Sarah's. "I was obsessed with building Chun Technologies, and your mother was building her own dreams in design. You were having an affair," Alex interrupted, his voice sharp. "No," Sarah answered before Marcus could. "That was what I believed, what I feared." But she looked at Marcus. "There was never anyone else, was there?" "Never," Marcus confirmed. "But I was married to my work. The company was everything. I missed dinners, anniversaries, important moments. And when your mother found messages from my lead developer, Jessica, I jumped to conclusions," Sarah continued. "I was already feeling alone, abandoned. The messages seemed to confirm my worst fears. Instead of talking it through, we both ran," Marcus finished. "I into my work, your mother into silence." The twins absorbed this, their expressions identical masks of processing. "Then Mom found out she was pregnant," Adam said. Sarah moved to sit beside her sons. "I was scared. Your father was becoming this huge success, his face on every business magazine. I thought," she swallowed hard, "I thought he wouldn't want the complication of children. Not then." "But you were wrong," Alex said, looking at Marcus. "Weren't you?" Marcus stood, walking to the window. The city sprawled below, the empire he'd built at the cost of his family. "I would have given it all up," he said quietly. "Every bit of success, every achievement. If I'd known." "You can't know that," Sarah whispered. Marcus turned back to face them. "I do know that, because the moment I saw those photos of the twins, none of it mattered anymore. Not the company, not the success, not the empire. Just them. You." He looked at Sarah. "All of you." A noise from the doorway revealed Lucas, who'd been listening silently. "So what happens now?" he asked, entering the room. "We can't just pretend 15 years didn't happen." "No," Marcus agreed. "But we can decide what the next 15 years look like. Starting with our names," Adam said firmly. "We meant what we said last night. We want to be Chens." Sarah's breath caught, but she nodded. "If that's what you want." "It is," Alex confirmed. "But," he looked at Marcus, "we want something else too." "Name it," Marcus said immediately. "Time," Adam answered. "Real time, not just photo ops and public appearances. We want to know our father. All of him. And we want you to know us," Alex added. "The real us. Not just the perfect twins everyone sees at school." Marcus moved back to his desk, pressing a button on his phone. "Janet, cancel all my appointments for the next month. Family emergency." Sarah's eyes widened. "Marcus, you can't just dash." "Yes, I can," he interrupted. "That's what I should have done 15 years ago." He looked at his sons, all three of them. "I'm not missing any more moments." The morning sun streamed through the windows, illuminating 5 people in a room full of newspapers announcing their story to the world. But the real story, the one that mattered, was just beginning to unfold in the quiet moments between headlines. "So," Lucas broke the emotional silence with a grin, "does this mean we get to hear embarrassing stories about Dad from Mom?" Sarah laughed, the sound breaking the last of the tension. "Oh, I have 15 years worth of those stored up." "Please no," Marcus groaned, but he was smiling. The twins leaned forward eagerly, and for the first time, they looked less like perfect copies and more like regular teenagers, hungry for stories about their parents. The newspapers lay forgotten on the desk, their headlines already yesterday's news. The real story was here in this room, in this moment, as a family. Began the delicate process of becoming whole again. Their fingers danced over the keys in perfect synchronization, playing a hauntingly beautiful piece he didn't recognize. Sarah stood beside him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I taught them that," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the music. "It was the lullaby my mother used to sing." Marcus felt a pang of loss for all the moments he'd missed. "They're incredible," he murmured. As the final notes faded, Adam looked up, noticing their audience. "Dad, we didn't know you were home." "Just got back," Marcus replied, stepping into the room. "That was extraordinary." Alex beamed, always quicker to accept compliments than his more reserved twin. "Thanks. We've been working on a new arrangement. Want to hear?" Before Marcus could answer, Lucas burst into the room, his face flushed with excitement. "Dad, the science fair results are in." The twins swiveled on the piano bench, their attention caught. Lucas had entered a project on sustainable energy, inspired by some of Chun Technology's recent innovations. "And," Marcus prompted, feeling a mix of anticipation and pride. Lucas's grin widened. "First place. They want me to present at the state competition next month." The room erupted in cheers. Sarah hugged Lucas tightly, while the twins offered high fives and congratulations. Marcus felt a surge of emotion so strong it nearly overwhelmed him. This was what he'd missed for so long, the simple joy of family celebrations. "We need to celebrate," he declared. "How about dinner out? Anywhere you want, Lucas." "Actually," Lucas said, his expression turning slightly sheepish, "I was hoping we could stay in, maybe cook together, all of us." The request caught Marcus off guard. In the past, celebrations had always meant expensive restaurants or catered affairs. But the hopeful look on Lucas's face, mirrored in the twins' eyes, made the decision easy. "Of course," he said warmly, "though I should warn you, my cooking skills are a bit rusty." Sarah laughed, a sound that still made Marcus's heart skip. "That's putting it mildly. Remember the great pancake disaster of 2007? The twins perked up immediately. "Oh, we need to hear this story," Adam said, grinning. As they made their way to the kitchen, the story of Marcus's spectacular culinary failure unfolded, punctuated by laughter and good-natured teasing. Soon, the sleek, barely used kitchen was a whirlwind of activity. Alex and Lucas tackled a complicated pasta sauce recipe, while Adam and Marcus attempted homemade garlic bread. Sarah supervised, offering tips and barely concealed amusement at the chaos. "Dad, you're supposed to slice the garlic, not smash it," Adam exclaimed, trying to salvage the cutting board. Marcus held up his hands in mock surrender. "Hey, I'm used to reading financial reports, not recipe books. Less talking, more cooking," Alex called out, stirring the sauce with intense concentration. "This is a delicate process." As the aroma of garlic and herbs filled the air, Marcus found himself pausing, taking in the scene before him. His sons, all three of them, working together, laughing, teasing each other like they'd grown up side by side. Sarah, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, flour streaking her cheek as she kneaded dough for dessert. This was what he'd been missing. Not just the big moments, but these small, everyday interactions that built a family. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked softly, noticing his contemplative expression. Marcus nodded, swallowing past the lump in his throat. "Better than okay," he managed. "This is everything." Sarah's eyes softened with understanding. She reached out, squeezing his hand briefly before returning to her task. The touch, casual as it was, sent a spark through him, a reminder of what they'd once had, and perhaps what they might rebuild. As the evening progressed, filled with laughter, minor cooking disasters, and ultimately a meal that tasted far better than it looked, Marcus realized something profound. The empire he'd built, the success he'd chased for so long, none of it compared to this. Here, in this kitchen, with flower-covered countertops and the sound of his family's laughter. He'd found something infinitely more valuable. The road ahead would be challenging, he knew. There were years of hurt to heal, trust to rebuild. But as he looked around the table at the faces of his loved ones, Marcus Chun felt something he hadn't experienced in 15 years. Hope. Real, tangible hope for a future brighter than any he could have imagined alone. As students and parents filed into the auditorium, Marcus felt a familiar flutter of nerves. This wasn't a boardroom or a press conference. This was personal, raw, and far more important than any business deal he'd ever closed. "You look like you're about to face a firing squad." Sarah's voice came from behind him, tinged with amusement and a hint of something softer. He turned to face her, struck as always by how time had only enhanced her beauty. "Is it that obvious?" She straightened his tie, a gesture so achingly familiar it made his heart ache. "Only to someone who knows you," she said quietly. Before he could respond, Lucas appeared, slightly out of breath. "They're ready." Adam's freaking out a little, but Alex is keeping him calm. Marcus nodded, taking a deep breath. "Let's do this." Inside, the auditorium hummed with excited whispers. The story of the Chun twins had captured the imagination of the entire school community. As Marcus and Sarah made their way to the front row, he could feel the weight of every gaze. The headmaster took the stage, his voice booming through the speakers. "Today, we gather to celebrate not just a change of name, but the reunification of a family. Please welcome Adam and Alexander Chun." The twins walked out, looking both nervous and determined in matching suits. Marcus felt a surge of pride so strong it nearly overwhelmed him. These were his sons, brilliant, talented, and now officially bearing his name. As the headmaster began the formal proceedings, Marcus found his mind drifting to the conversation he'd had with the twins the night before. "Are you sure about this?" he had asked, giving them one last chance to reconsider. "Changing your name is a big step." Adam had nodded firmly. "We're sure, Dad. We want to be Chens, not just legally, but in every way. Plus," Alex had added with a grin, "think of how much easier it'll be to get restaurant reservations now." Now, watching as Adam and Alex signed the official documents, Marcus felt a complex mix of emotions: joy, regret for lost time, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. These boys were choosing him, choosing to be part of his legacy. He silently vowed to be worthy of that choice. As the ceremony concluded, the auditorium erupted in applause. Marcus stood, ready to join his sons on stage, when he felt Sarah's hand slip into his. "Together," she whispered, and he nodded, grateful for her support. They walked up to the stage as a united front, enveloping the twins in a group hug that soon included Lucas as well. For a moment, the flashing cameras and murmuring crowd faded away, and they were just a family, holding onto each other. "So," Alex said as they broke apart, his eyes twinkling with mischief, "does this mean we get keys to the company jet now?" The tension broke as they all laughed, the sound echoing through the auditorium. As they made their way off stage, Marcus caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd: Jessica, his old lead developer, the one whose messages had sparked the misunderstanding that tore his family apart 15 years ago. She gave him a small, sad smile and a nod before disappearing into the crowd. The sight of her was a stark reminder of how close he'd come to losing everything that truly mattered. He tightened his arm around the twins' shoulders, drawing them close. "I was thinking," he said as they navigated through well-wishers, "how about we take a family trip? Anywhere you boys want to go." "Seriously?" Lucas's eyes lit up. "What about work?" Marcus smiled, catching Sarah's eye over the boys' heads. "Work can wait. This our family. That's the priority now." As they stepped out into the crisp autumn air, the future stretched before them, full of possibility and the promise of making up for lost time. The Chun family, now complete, now whole, faced that future together, ready for whatever challenges and joys lay ahead. The gentle fall breeze carried the scent of new beginnings, and for the first time in 15 years, Marcus felt truly, completely at peace. The empire he'd built paled in comparison to the treasure he'd found: a family reunited, stronger for having been broken, and now ready to write the next chapter of their story together. Marcus sat in his usual seat, a stack of reports before him, old habits dying hard. But his attention kept drifting to his sons, sprawled across the luxurious cabin. Lucas was engrossed in a book on renewable energy, while the twins were engaged in what appeared to be an intense chess match. Sarah's voice interrupted his thoughts. "You promised no work on this trip, remember?" She slid into the seat across from him, raising an eyebrow at the reports. "Old habits," he admitted, pushing the papers aside. "How are you holding up?" Sarah's smile was tinged with a hint of sadness. "It's surreal, watching them together, seeing bits of you in all three. Sometimes I forget to breathe." Before Marcus could respond, a commotion erupted from the chess game. "That's cheating," Adam exclaimed, his voice rising. "It's not cheating, it's strategy," Alex retorted, a smug grin on his face. "Boys," Marcus started, but Sarah held up a hand, silently asking him to wait. Lucas looked up from his book, assessing the situation. With a sigh that seemed beyond his years, he moved to the chessboard. "Let me see." As Lucas mediated the twins' dispute, explaining the finer points of chess strategy, Marcus felt a swell of pride. His youngest son, stepping up, bridging the gap between his brothers. "He's good at that," Sarah murmured, echoing his thoughts. "Peacemaking. Wonder where he gets it from," Marcus replied, giving her a meaningful look. Sarah's cheeks colored slightly, but before she could respond, the pilot's voice came over the intercom announcing their descent. As they prepared for landing, the energy in the cabin shifted. The boys crowded around the windows, exclaiming over the crystal-clear waters and lush greenery of the island below. "It's beautiful," Adam breathed, his earlier chess frustration forgotten. "Think of the ecosystems we could study here," Alex added, his scientific mind already whirring. Lucas turned to Marcus, his eyes shining. "Dad, can we go snorkeling? I've read about the marine biodiversity in these waters." "We can do whatever you want," Marcus promised, feeling a warmth spread through his chest at their enthusiasm. As they disembarked, the tropical air enveloped them, heavy with the scent of flowers and sea salt. Their villa, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, was a masterpiece of luxury and privacy. But as they settled in, Marcus noticed a shift in Sarah's demeanor. She stood on the terrace, her gaze distant, arms wrapped around herself as if warding off a chill despite the warm breeze. "Sarah?" he approached cautiously. "What's wrong?" She turned to him, her eyes glistening. "The last time we were in Greece." The memory hit him like a physical blow. Their honeymoon, young and in love, full of dreams for the future. A future that had unraveled so spectacularly. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't think. We can go somewhere else if this is too difficult." Sarah shook her head, wiping away a stray tear. "No, it's good. A chance to make new memories, maybe." From inside the villa, they heard a splash followed by laughter. The boys had discovered the infinity pool. "Mom, Dad," Lucas called out. "Come on in." Sarah hesitated. Then a slow smile spread across her face. "Race you to the pool?" For a moment, Marcus saw a flash of the young woman he'd fallen in love with all those years ago. Without thinking, he grabbed her hand. "You're on." As they ran towards the pool, shedding shoes and worries alike, Marcus felt something shift. The weight of the past 15 years seemed to lighten, if only for a moment. They hit the water together, surrounded by the laughter of their sons. And as Marcus surfaced, wiping water from his eyes, he caught Sarah's gaze. There was something there, a spark of the old connection, a hint of possibility. The sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. As the Chun family floated in the pool, trading jokes and stories, Marcus realized that this moment of simple joy was worth more than any business deal or technological breakthrough. "Thank you," he said quietly to Sarah as the boys engaged in a splash war. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance. For allowing our family to have this." Sarah's hand found his under the water, squeezing gently. We're all getting a second chance, Marcus. Let's make it count. As night fell over the island, the stars reflecting on the calm sea, the Chen family began to write a new chapter, one of healing, rediscovery, and the tentative hope of a love rekindled. Mind if I join you? Marcus's voice came from behind, causing her heart to skip in a way that both thrilled and terrified her. She gestured to the empty chair beside her, not trusting her voice. Marcus sat down, his own glass of wine in hand, and for a moment, they sat in companionable silence, watching the stars emerge over the darkening sea. The boys are plotting something, Marcus said finally, a hint of amusement in his voice. I caught them whispering and they clammed up immediately. Sarah chuckled softly, probably planning how to convince you to buy them a private island. Don't give them ideas, Marcus groaned, but his eyes were twinkling. The laughter faded, leaving a charged silence. Sarah could feel the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. Sarah, Marcus began, his voice low and serious. I need to say something, and I need you to just listen, okay? She nodded, her heart racing. 15 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life, he continued, his gaze fixed on the horizon. I let you walk away. I chose my work over our marriage, over what could have been our family. And not a day has gone by that I haven't regretted it. Sarah felt tears pricking at her eyes. Marcus? He held up a hand, silencing her gently. Please let me finish. Seeing you with the boys, watching how amazing of a mother you've been, it's made me realize what I missed, what I threw away. And I know it's probably too late, and I have no right to ask, but... He turned to face her, his eyes shining with unshed tears. Is there any chance at all, that we could try again? The world seemed to stop spinning for a moment. Sarah's mind raced through the past 15 years, the pain, the loneliness, but also the strength she'd found, the life she'd built. I'm not the same woman I was 15 years ago, she said softly. And you're not the same man. I know, Marcus nodded, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe we needed to grow to become the people we are now, to truly appreciate what we had, what we could have again. Sarah set her wine glass down, her hands trembling slightly. It's not that simple, Marcus. We can't just erase the past. I'm not asking to erase it, he said, reaching for her hand. I'm asking if we can build a future, together with all that we've learned. Before Sarah could respond, a commotion from inside the villa interrupted them. The boys burst onto the terrace, their faces alight with excitement. Mom! Dad! Alex exclaimed. We have an idea. A brilliant idea, Adam added. Lucas, ever the mediator, stepped forward. We've been talking, and, well, we think you should get married again. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. What? Marcus looked equally stunned. Boys, it's not that simple. But it is, Alex insisted. We've seen how you look at each other. And this week, it's been like we're a real family. We are a real family, Sarah said softly. You know what we mean, Adam said. Complete. Whole. Lucas nodded. We want you to be happy, both of you, and we think you're happiest when you're together. Sarah looked at Marcus, seeing her own shock and wonder mirrored in his eyes. The boys waited, breath held, for their response. In that moment, with the Greek stars twinkling above and the sound of the sea below, Sarah felt something shift inside her. The walls she'd built around her heart over 15 years began to crumble. It wouldn't be easy, she said slowly, her eyes locked with Marcus's. We'd have a lot to work through. I'm willing to put in the work, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. If you are. The boys watched, silent and hopeful, as their parents stood on the precipice of a decision that would reshape all their lives. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past and the possibility of the future. I think, she said carefully, that maybe, just maybe, we could try. The terrace erupted in cheers as the boys rushed to embrace their parents. And as Sarah found herself enveloped in the arms of her family, Marcus and the three boys they created together, She felt a sense of coming home she hadn't experienced in 15 years. The future stretched before them, uncertain but full of promise. As they stood together under the Greek sky, the Chen family began to write a new chapter, one of second chances, rekindled love, and the unbreakable bonds of family. Chen family vacation. Reconciliation or publicity stunt? Tech tycoon's second chance at love? Inside the Chen family. Drama. Exclusive sources reveal all. Marcus felt Sarah tense beside him as they pushed through the crowd. He instinctively placed a protective hand on her lower back, guiding her towards the waiting car. Mr. Chen, is it true you're remarrying? Sarah, how does it feel to be back in the spotlight? Boys, how do you feel about your parents getting back together? The questions came rapid-fire, each more intrusive than the last. Lucas, ever the diplomat, managed a polite no comment, while the twins wore identical expressions of annoyance. Once safely in the car, the tension that had been building finally broke. This is insane, Adam exploded. We can't even go on vacation without it becoming front-page news. Alex nodded in agreement. I thought the Greek island was supposed to be private. How did they even know we were there? Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. I'm sorry, boys. I should have anticipated this. The story's too big, too juicy for the media to ignore. Sarah reached out, squeezing his hand. It's not your fault, Marcus. We knew this wouldn't be easy. Lucas, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. So what do we do? How do we handle this? The car fell silent as everyone contemplated the question. It was Sarah who finally broke the silence. We face it head-on, she said, her voice firm. No more hiding, no more secrets. We tell our story, on our terms. Marcus looked at her, a mixture of pride and concern in his eyes. Are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. Our lives will be under a microscope. Sarah nodded, her gaze steady. I'm sure. We've spent 15 years apart because of misunderstandings and lack of communication. I won't let that happen again. The twins exchanged glances, having one of their silent conversations. Finally, Adam spoke for both of them. We're in. Whatever you decide, we'll support you. Lucas nodded in agreement. Family first, right? We can handle anything together. As the car wound its way through the busy New York streets, Marcus felt a surge of emotion. This wasn't the homecoming he'd envisioned, but looking at the determined faces of his family, he knew they could weather this storm. All right, he said, pulling out his phone. I'll call a press conference for tomorrow morning. We'll make a statement, answer some questions, and hopefully put this circus to rest. Sarah leaned into him, her warmth a comforting presence. Together? She asked softly. Together, he confirmed, wrapping an arm around her. As they arrived at the penthouse, the reality of their situation began to sink in. The boys headed to their rooms to unpack, leaving Marcus and Sarah alone in the living room. Are we crazy for doing this? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus turned to her, cupping her face gently in his hands. Maybe, he admitted, but I'd rather be crazy with you than sane without you. Sarah's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Marcus, I dashed before she could finish. His lips were on hers. 15 years of longing and regret poured into a single, passionate kiss. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. I love you, Marcus said, his voice hoarse with emotion. I never stopped loving you. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Sarah nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the New York skyline glittered beyond the windows, a reminder of the world waiting to scrutinize their every move. Tomorrow would bring challenges, questions, and undoubtedly more media circus. But in that moment, holding each other close, Marcus and Sarah felt ready to face anything. Their family was whole again, and this time, they were determined to make it work, no matter what obstacles lay ahead. The sound of the boys' laughter drifted from down the hall, a reminder of the precious second chance they'd been given. As night fell over the city, the Chun family prepared for the battle ahead, not just against the media frenzy, but against the ghosts of their past and the uncertainties of their future. "Are you ready for this?" she asked softly, moving to stand beside him. Marcus turned to face her, taking her hands in his. "As ready as I'll ever be. Are you having second thoughts?" Sarah shook her head, squeezing his hands. "No, just nervous. This is going to change everything, isn't it?" Before Marcus could respond, a commotion from the living room caught their attention. They rushed out to find Lucas and the twins in a heated argument. "You can't say that," Lucas was saying, his face flushed with anger. "Do you have any idea how that would look?" Adam stood his ground, eyes blazing. "I don't care how it looks. It's the truth." Alex, caught between his brothers, looked torn. "Maybe we should just stick to the script. What's going on here?" Marcus's authoritative voice cut through the tension. The boys fell silent, exchanging guilty looks. Finally, Adam spoke up. "We were discussing what to say at the press conference. Lucas thinks we should just read the prepared statements, but I think we should tell the whole truth." "And what truth is that?" Sarah asked, her voice gentle but firm. Adam took a deep breath. "That it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows when we found out about Dad. That we were angry, confused, that we're still figuring things out." Lucas interjected. "But if we say that, the media will twist it. They'll say our family is falling apart before it's even come together." Marcus and Sarah exchanged a look, years of unspoken communication passing between them in an instant. Sarah nodded slightly, and Marcus turned back to the boys. "Come here, all of you," he said, gesturing them to the couch. As they sat, Marcus and Sarah took seats across from them. "Boys," Marcus began, his voice heavy with emotion, "what we're about to do, it's not about presenting a perfect picture to the world. It's about being honest with ourselves, with each other, and yes, with the public." Sarah leaned forward, her eyes moving from one son to the next. "Your feelings are valid. All of them. The anger, the confusion, the joy. It's all part of our story. And if we're going to do this, we need to do it honestly." Lucas looked uncertain. "But what if they use it against us? What if they try to tear us apart?" Marcus reached out, placing a hand on Lucas's shoulder. "Then we'll face it together. As a family, we've spent too long hiding from the truth. It's time to embrace it, all of it." Adam's defiant posture softened. "So, we can tell them how we really feel?" "Yes," Sarah nodded. "But remember, once it's out there, we can't take it back. Are you prepared for that?" The twins exchanged glances, then looked at Lucas. A moment of silent communication passed between the three brothers before they turned back to their parents. "We're ready," Alex said, speaking for all of them. As they prepared to leave for the press conference, the atmosphere in the penthouse had shifted. The tension was still there, but underneath it was a current of determination and unity. In the elevator, Marcus felt Sarah's hand slip into his. He looked down at her, seeing a mixture of fear and resolve in her eyes. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "we're in this together." Marcus nodded, squeezing her hand. "Together," he echoed. As the elevator doors opened, revealing a sea of flashing cameras and shouting reporters, the Chun family stepped forward as one. They were about to lay their story bare to the world, with all its imperfections and complexities. In that moment, facing the storm ahead, Marcus felt a surge of pride and love for his family. They had been broken, scattered by time and misunderstanding, but here they were united, ready to fight for their second chance. The cameras flashed, questions flew, and as Marcus approached the podium, his family flanking him, he knew that whatever came next, they would face it as one. The world was about to hear the real story of the Chin family, raw and unfiltered, and in that truth, they hoped to find their strength. "Dad!" Lucas's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Are you okay?" Marcus turned to find all three of his sons watching him with concern. He managed a small smile. "I'm fine, just processing." Adam stepped forward, his usual confidence tempered by uncertainty. "We didn't mess everything up, did we? By being so honest." The press conference had indeed been raw and unfiltered. The twins had spoken about their initial anger and confusion upon learning about Marcus. Lucas had admitted to feeling overwhelmed and sometimes resentful of his new brothers. And Sarah had brought many in the room to tears with her candid account of the pain and loneliness of the past 15 years. "No, you didn't mess anything up," Marcus assured them. "You were brave and honest. I'm proud of all of you." Sarah emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray of steaming mugs. "I thought we could all use some hot chocolate," she said, her voice soft but steady. As they gathered around the living room, each clutching a warm mug, the tension that had been building since the press conference began to dissipate. "So what happens now?" Alex asked, breaking the silence. Marcus and Sarah exchanged glances. "Now," Sarah began, "we keep moving forward, together. But what about all the things people are saying?" Lucas pulled out his phone, scrolling through social media. "Some of it's really nasty." Marcus leaned forward, his expression serious. "Listen to me, all of you. What matters is what happens in this room, in this family. The rest of the world can speculate and gossip, but they don't know us. Not really." "Your father's right," Sarah added. "We knew this wouldn't be easy, but we're choosing to face it head-on together." Adam set his mug down, his face etched with determination. "I don't regret what I said. People needed to know it wasn't all perfect, that we're still figuring things out. And that's okay," Marcus assured him. "Families aren't perfect. They're messy and complicated, and sometimes they hurt. But they're also where we find our greatest strength." Alex, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "I've been thinking, maybe we could do something together, as a family, something positive." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, intrigued. "Well," Alex continued, warming to his idea, "Dad's company does a lot with technology, right? And Mom's design firm is all about creating beautiful spaces. What if we combined that somehow? Like, a project to create sustainable, beautiful living spaces for people who need them." The room fell silent as everyone considered the suggestion. Then, slowly, smiles began to spread. "That's actually a brilliant idea," Marcus said, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "It could be our way of showing the world what our family stands for," Lucas added, nodding enthusiastically. Sarah reached out, squeezing Alex's hand. "I think it's perfect. A way to use our talents and resources to make a real difference." As they began to discuss the possibilities, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The worry and tension of the press conference faded, replaced by a sense of purpose and unity. Later that night, as the boys headed off to bed, Marcus found Sarah on the balcony, gazing out at the city. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked, wrapping an arm around her waist. Sarah leaned into him, sighing softly. "I was just thinking about how far we've come, and how far we still have to go." Marcus nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "It won't be easy," he acknowledged, "but I think today proved that we're stronger together than we ever were apart." Sarah turned to face him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I'm scared, Marcus. Scared of getting hurt again. Scared of messing this up." He cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped. "I'm scared too," he admitted, "but I'm more scared of losing this chance. Of losing you and our family again." As they stood there, the city spread out before them like a sea of twinkling stars. Marcus felt a profound sense of hope. They had weathered the storm of public scrutiny, faced their fears and doubts head-on, and emerged stronger. "Whatever comes next," he whispered, pulling Sarah close. "We face it together." She nodded against his chest, her arms tightening around him. "Together," she echoed. Inside, the soft sounds of the boys' laughter drifted from one of the bedrooms, a reminder of the precious gift they had been given. A second chance at family, at love, at building something beautiful from the broken pieces of their past. As the night deepened, the Chun family slept, each dreaming of the future they would build not just for themselves, but for others who needed hope and a helping hand. The road ahead would be challenging, but they were ready to face it, united by love, honesty, and the unbreakable bonds of family. Marcus stood in the center of a bustling construction site, surrounded by the skeleton of what would soon become the first Chin Family Foundation Sustainable Living Complex. The project, born from Alex's idea that fateful night, had grown into something far beyond what any of them had initially imagined. "Dad!" Lucas's voice cut through the noise of hammering and drilling. "The solar panel shipment just arrived. Alex is having a field day checking them out." Marcus grinned, picturing his scientifically minded son poring over the cutting-edge technology. "And Adam, still arguing with the acoustics team about the placement of the music room," Lucas replied with a roll of his eyes. "He's convinced he can improve their designs." As they made their way across the site, Marcus marveled at how naturally his sons had taken to the project. Each had found their niche, Alex in sustainable technology, Adam in community outreach and arts programs, and Lucas in project management and coordination. They found the twins near the eastern wing of the complex. Alex was indeed surrounded by crates of solar panels, his eyes shining with excitement as he explained their efficiency to a group of attentive workers. Adam, meanwhile, was gesticulating wildly to a bemused-looking acoustician, clearly passionate about whatever point he was making. "Boys," Marcus called out, unable to keep the pride from his voice, "your mother's on her way with the interior design team. Let's regroup and go over the final plans." As they gathered in the makeshift office on site, Sarah arrived, looking every bit the successful businesswoman she was, but with a softness in her eyes that had been absent for so long. "Sorry I'm late," she said, kissing Marcus quickly before turning to the boys. "Traffic was a nightmare. How's everything going?" "We're on schedule," Lucas reported, pulling up a detailed timeline on his tablet. "If everything goes according to plan, we should be ready for the first families to move in by late summer." Sarah beamed, her eyes misting slightly as she looked around at her family. "I can't believe how far we've come," she said softly. Marcus squeezed her hand, understanding the weight of her words. The past 6 months hadn't been easy. There had been arguments, setbacks, and moments when the pressure of public scrutiny had nearly overwhelmed them. But they had persevered, drawing strength from each other and from the purpose that united them. "All right, Team Chun," Marcus said, clapping his hands together. "Let's go over the final touches. We want this place to be perfect for the families who'll call it home." As they dove into the details, debating color schemes, arguing over the placement of communal spaces, and fine-tuning the integration of sustainable technologies, Marcus felt a surge of emotion so strong it nearly took his breath away. This was his family. Imperfect, sometimes chaotic, but bound by love and a shared vision. They had taken their pain, their mistakes, and their second chance, and transformed them into something beautiful, not just for themselves, but for others who needed hope. Later that evening, as the sun set over the construction site, casting long shadows across what would soon be a beacon of sustainability and community, the Chun family stood together, surveying their work. "You know," Adam said, breaking the contemplative silence, "when I first found out about everything, I never imagined we'd end up here." Alex nodded in agreement. "I thought our family was broken beyond repair. But now we're building something bigger than ourselves," Lucas finished, a hint of wonder in his voice. Sarah leaned into Marcus, her head resting on his shoulder. "We're not just building homes," she murmured. "We're building a legacy." Marcus wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "A legacy of second chances," he added, his voice thick with emotion, "of turning pain into purpose." As they stood there, the first stars appearing in the darkening sky, Marcus felt a profound sense of peace. The road had been long and often difficult, but standing here with his family, seeing the tangible results of their love and determination, he knew that every struggle had been worth it. "So," he said, a mischievous glint in his eye, "who's up for a family dinner? I hear there's a new fusion place downtown that's supposed to be incredible." The boys groaned in unison, but their smiles betrayed their feigned annoyance. "Only if you promise not to embarrass us by trying to use chopsticks again," Adam teased. As they made their way to the car, laughing and bickering good-naturedly, Marcus caught Sarah's eye. The love and contentment he saw reflected there mirrored his own feelings. They had weathered the storm, faced their past, and emerged stronger. And now, with every nail hammered and every life touched by their project, they were writing a new chapter not just for the Chin family, but for countless others who would benefit from their vision of hope and sustainability. The future stretched out before them, bright with promise and possibility. And whatever challenges lay ahead, Marcus knew they would face them together, as a family united by love, purpose, and the unbreakable bonds they had forged through adversity. "Dad!" Lucas's voice broke through his reverie. "It's almost time. The press is starting to arrive." Marcus nodded, turning to face his youngest son. "How are you feeling about all this?" Lucas paused, considering the question. "Nervous, excited, proud, maybe a little scared," he admitted. "It's all so big." Before Marcus could respond, the twins appeared, both looking uncharacteristically solemn in their matching suits. "The first families are here," Alex reported, his voice tinged with excitement and anxiety. "They're waiting in the community center." Adam fidgeted with his tie. "What if they don't like it? What if we've messed this up somehow?" Marcus felt a surge of pride and love for his sons. "Listen to me, all of you," he said, gathering them close. "What we've done here is extraordinary. It's not perfect, nothing ever is, but it's a start. A chance for people to rebuild their lives, just like we rebuilt our family." "Your father's right," Sarah's voice came from behind them. She approached, looking radiant in a simple yet elegant dress. "Whatever happens today, we've already accomplished something amazing." As they stood there, the Chun family united in a moment of quiet reflection. The sound of approaching footsteps caught their attention. A small group of people, the first residents of the complex, were being led towards them by a member of the foundation staff. Marcus took a deep breath, squeezing Sarah's hand for support. "Ready?" he asked softly. She nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Together," she whispered back. As the families approached, Marcus was struck by the mix of hope and uncertainty on their faces. There was a young couple with a toddler, an elderly woman supported by her adult son, a single mother with 3 children of varying ages, and others all looking for a fresh start. "Welcome," Marcus began, his voice wavering slightly with emotion. "We're so honored to have you here." A middle-aged man stepped forward, his weathered face etched with both gratitude and suspicion. "Mr. Chan," he said, his voice gruff, "why are you doing this? What's in it for you?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Marcus felt his sons tense beside him, ready to jump to his defense, but he held up a hand to stop them. "A fair question," he acknowledged. "The truth is, this project, it's personal for us. My family and I, we know what it's like to be broken, to need a second chance." He paused, looking at Sarah and their sons. "This complex, it's not just about providing homes. It's about creating a community where people can heal, grow, and build a better future, just like we've been trying to do." Sarah stepped forward, her voice soft but strong. "We're not here as saviors or benefactors. We're here as partners. This is your home now, and we want to work alongside you to make it thrive." The skeptical man's expression softened slightly. "And what about when the cameras leave? When it's not all shiny and new anymore?" It was Adam who spoke up, surprising everyone. "Then we'll still be here," he said firmly. "This isn't a one-time thing for us. It's a commitment." Alex nodded in agreement. "We've built more than just buildings here. We've tried to create a sustainable ecosystem, both environmentally and socially. And we want to learn from you," Lucas added. "Your experiences, your needs, they'll shape how we move forward, how we improve and grow." As the families listened, Marcus could see a shift in their demeanor. The wariness began to give way to cautious hope. The young mother stepped forward, her youngest child clinging to her leg. I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This opportunity, it means everything to us." Marcus felt his own eyes welling up. "Your success, your happiness, that's all the thanks we need." As the conversation continued, with the families asking questions and sharing their stories, Marcus felt a profound sense of rightness. This was why they had worked so hard, why they had exposed their own vulnerabilities to the world. It wasn't about redemption or good publicity. It was about making a real difference, about turning their own second chance into opportunities for others. Later, as the ribbon-cutting ceremony began and cameras flashed, Marcus stood with his family, surrounded by the new residents of the complex. Looking out at the gathered crowd, a mix of media, local officials, and curious onlookers, he felt a surge of emotion. "This," he said quietly to Sarah, "this is our legacy." She squeezed his hand, her eyes shining. "A legacy of hope," she agreed. As the ribbon fell and applause erupted, Marcus knew that this was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, unforeseen obstacles to overcome. But looking at his family, Sarah by his side, the boys beaming with pride, he felt ready for whatever came next. They had rebuilt their family from the ashes of the past, and now they were helping others do the same. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was something better. It was real, imperfect, and infinitely precious. As the first families began to move towards their new homes, Marcus Chun felt a peace he'd never known before. They had taken their broken pieces and created something beautiful, not just for themselves, but for others. And in doing so, they had found their true purpose, their real happily ever after. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Sarah's voice came from behind him, soft and familiar. Marcus turned, drinking in the sight of her. Even after all this time, she still took his breath away. "Just marveling at what we've created here," he replied, drawing her into his arms. Sarah leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. "It's more than we ever dreamed, isn't it?" Before Marcus could respond, the door to the balcony burst open, and their sons tumbled out, all talking at once. "Dad, you've got to see this," Alex exclaimed, his eyes shining with excitement. "The solar panel efficiency rates are off the charts," Adam cut in, practically bouncing with energy. "And the community orchestra. You won't believe how talented some of these kids are." Lucas, ever the peacemaker, held up his hands. "One at a time, guys. But seriously, Dad, Mom, there's something you need to see." Exchanging curious glances, Marcus and Sarah allowed themselves to be led back into the community center and down to the courtyard. As they emerged into the open space, they were met with a sight that took their breath away. The entire community had gathered, residents of all ages forming a loose circle. In the center stood Mrs. Rodriguez, the elderly woman who had been one of the first to move in, her weathered face beaming with joy. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen," she called out, her voice strong despite her frail appearance. "We have something for you." As the crowd parted to let them through, Marcus felt a lump forming in his throat. On a makeshift easel stood a large canvas, covered by a cloth. "What's this?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Rodriguez stepped forward, her eyes twinkling. "A gift from all of us, to thank you for giving us more than just a home. You've given us hope, a future." With a flourish, she pulled away the cloth, revealing a stunning mural. It depicted the complex, but more than that, it showed the community, people of all ages and backgrounds, working together, supporting each other. And there, in the center, was the Chun family, their likenesses captured with startling accuracy. I don't know what to say," Marcus managed, his voice thick with emotion. "You don't have to say anything." A young man stepped forward. Marcus recognized him as the skeptical resident from move-in day. "Just know that what you've done here, it's changed lives, including mine." As murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, Marcus felt Sarah's hand slip into his. He looked down at her, seeing his own emotions reflected in her eyes. "We didn't do this alone," Sarah said, addressing the gathered community. "Each of you, with your strength, your resilience, your willingness to trust and build something new, you're the real heroes here." The twins moved to stand beside their parents, with Lucas joining them a moment later. As they stood there, the Chun family united before the community they had helped create, Marcus felt a profound sense of completion. "You know," Adam said quietly, "when we first found out about everything, I never imagined we'd end up here." Alex nodded in agreement. "I thought our family was broken beyond repair. But now we're part of something bigger," Lucas finished, his voice filled with wonder. As the community began to disperse, returning to their homes and activities, a young girl approached Marcus, tugging gently on his sleeve. "Mr. Chun?" she asked, her voice small but determined. "Is it true that your family was broken once, like mine was?" Marcus knelt down to her level, his heart aching at the pain he saw in her young eyes. "Yes, it's true. We were broken for a long time. But you fixed it," she said, more a statement than a question. Marcus glanced up at his family. Sarah, the boys, all watching with soft smiles, before turning back to the girl. "We did. It wasn't easy, and it took a lot of work. But we found our way back to each other." The girl nodded solemnly. "Maybe my family can do that too someday." As she scampered off to join her friends, Marcus stood, feeling the weight of the moment. Sarah slipped an arm around his waist, leaning into him. "We've come so far," she murmured. Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. They had indeed come far, from broken pieces to a united family, from personal pain to a mission that touched countless lives. As night fell over the complex, the Chun family made their way back to the community center. There was still work to be done, always more to improve and build upon. But as Marcus looked at his wife and sons, at the thriving community around them, he knew that they had found something precious and rare. They had taken their second chance and turned it into a beacon of hope for others. And in doing so, they had healed not just themselves, but had started a ripple effect of healing and renewal that would continue long into the future. The story of the Chun family wasn't over. It was, in many ways, just beginning. But now, instead of a tale of loss and separation, it was a story of redemption, of love rekindled, and of the extraordinary power of second chances. As they gathered around the table to plan their next project, Marcus felt a sense of peace and purpose he had never known before. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together as a family, as a community, united by love and the unbreakable bonds they had forged through adversity. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice carrying the weight of experience and hope. 5 years ago, my family and I stood at a crossroads. We had been broken, scattered by misunderstanding and lost time. But in our journey to reconnect, we discovered something profound: the power of second chances. As he spoke, Marcus's eyes found Sarah's in the audience. She nodded encouragingly, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Today, I'm not here to talk about technology or sustainable building practices, though those are certainly part of our work. I'm here to talk about the human element of sustainability, about how, when we give people the tools and the opportunity to rebuild their lives, we create a ripple effect that can change the world." In the audience, Adam and Alex sat tall, their identical faces beaming with pride. Lucas, now a young man on the cusp of adulthood, leaned forward, hanging on every word. "Our complexes are more than just buildings," Marcus continued. "They're incubators for hope, for innovation, for community. We've seen former rivals become neighbors, then friends. We've watched children who once had no future prospects become leaders in their communities. And we've learned that sustainability isn't just about preserving our planet. It's about nurturing the human spirit." As Marcus's speech drew to a close, the auditorium erupted in applause. But it was the reaction of his family that mattered most to him. As he stepped down from the podium, they engulfed him in a group hug, their voices overlapping in excitement. "Dad, that was incredible," Lucas exclaimed. "You really knocked it out of the park," Adam added, grinning. Alex, ever the analytical one, chimed in. "The statistics on community engagement and environmental impact are off the charts. We're making a real difference." Sarah's eyes met Marcus's over the boys' heads. "We've come so far," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. As they made their way through the crowd of well-wishers and dignitaries, a familiar face caught Marcus's attention. "Jessica, His former lead developer, the woman whose messages had inadvertently led to the breakdown of his marriage all those years ago, approached hesitantly. "Marcus," she said, her voice tinged with nervousness. I just wanted to say congratulations. What you and your family have accomplished, it's truly remarkable." Marcus felt Sarah tense beside him, but he squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Thank you, Jessica," he replied warmly. "It's been quite a journey." Jessica nodded, her eyes flicking between Marcus and Sarah. "I've always regretted, well, the misunderstanding that happened. I'm so glad you were able to find your way back to each other." Sarah stepped forward, surprising everyone. "It wasn't easy," she said softly, "but sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the deepest cracks." As Jessica moved on, visibly relieved, Marcus turned to Sarah in wonder. "That was unexpected," he murmured. Sarah smiled, a hint of her old mischief in her eyes. "Well, I figured after 5 years of building sustainable communities, I could practice a little sustainable forgiveness." The boys, who had been watching the exchange with interest, burst into laughter. "Mom, you're full of surprises," Adam said, shaking his head in amusement. As they made their way out of the building, plans already forming for their next project, Marcus felt a sense of completeness he'd never known before. They had taken their broken pieces and not only put them back together but used them to create something beautiful and world-changing. Later that night, as the family sat around the dinner table in their New York penthouse, the conversation flowed freely, full of ideas and dreams for the future. "I was thinking," Alex said between bites, "what if we integrated more AI into our community planning? We could optimize resource allocation even further." Adam nodded enthusiastically. "And we could expand our arts programs. Music and creativity have been such powerful tools for healing in our communities." Lucas, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "I want to join the foundation full-time after college," he announced. "I want to be part of this, to keep building on what we've started." Marcus and Sarah exchanged glances, their eyes conveying a mixture of pride and emotion. "Are you sure?" Sarah asked gently. "It's a big commitment." Lucas nodded, his face set with determination. "I'm sure. This is our legacy, all of ours. I want to be part of shaping it." As the conversation continued late into the night, Marcus found himself overwhelmed with gratitude. They had come so far from those broken, angry people who had confronted each other in a park 5 years ago. They had taken their pain and transformed it into purpose, their loss into a legacy that would outlive them all. Outside, the New York skyline glittered, a reminder of the world that lay beyond their cozy family dinner, a world that was changing slowly but surely because of the ripples they had set in motion. As Marcus looked around at his family, Sarah, his partner in every sense, the twins, so different and yet united in their passion, and Lucas, ready to carry their vision into the future, he felt a profound sense of peace. They had been given a second chance, and they had made the most of it, not just for themselves, but for countless others around the world. And as they sat there, planning and dreaming together, Marcus knew that this was just the beginning. The Chun family's story was far from over. It was, in many ways, just beginning its most exciting chapter. And whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as they had faced everything else together, united by love, purpose, and the unbreakable bonds of family. As Marcus surveyed the preparations, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Turning, he found himself face to face with Lucas, now a striking young man of 25. "Dad," Lucas said, his voice tinged with nervousness. "Can we talk for a minute?" Marcus nodded, sensing the importance in his son's tone. They walked to a quiet corner of the garden, away from the bustling preparations. "What's on your mind, son?" Marcus asked, studying Lucas's face. Lucas took a deep breath. "I've been offered a position to lead a new sustainable development project in Africa. It's a huge opportunity, but it would mean being away for at least 2 years. Marcus felt a mix of pride and sadness wash over him. "Lucas, that's incredible. But why do you seem so conflicted?" Lucas's eyes darted towards the house, where Sarah could be seen through a window, laughing with the twins. "I don't want to miss anything. We've all been together, working side by side for so long. And with the new baby coming." Marcus's heart swelled, thinking of Adam and his wife's impending arrival, the first grandchild of the Chin family. "Lucas," Marcus said gently, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "Do you remember what I told you all those years ago, when we first started this journey?" Lucas nodded, a small smile playing at his lips. "That our family's story was just beginning." "Exactly," Marcus continued. "And part of that story is watching you all grow, spread your wings. Your mother and I, we lost so much time, but we got our second chance and we've made the most of it. Now it's your turn to make your mark on the world." Tears welled in Lucas's eyes. "But what if everything changes while I'm gone?" Marcus pulled his son into a tight embrace. "Things will change, Lucas. That's life. But the love we have for each other, the bonds we've built, those are unbreakable. No matter where you go, you'll always be a part of this family." As they broke apart, wiping away tears, a commotion from the house caught their attention. Sarah burst out onto the patio, her face a mix of shock and joy. "Marcus! Lucas!" she called out. "Come quick! It's Adam! The baby's coming!" The backyard erupted into a frenzy of excitement. Guests who had arrived early for the party were ushered inside. The catering staff scrambled to rearrange plans, and Alex was already on the phone, arranging for a car to take them to the hospital. As they piled into vehicles, Marcus found himself in the back seat with Sarah, her hand clasped tightly in his. "Some birthday celebration, huh?" he said, trying to lighten the mood. Sarah laughed, her eyes sparkling with tears of joy. "I couldn't have asked for a better gift." The drive to the hospital was a blur of emotions and hurried phone calls. When they arrived, they found Adam pacing anxiously in the waiting room, his face pale with worry and excitement. "She's in labor," he said, his voice shaking. "They said it could be hours yet." As the family settled in for the wait, Marcus couldn't help but marvel at the scene before him. Alex was comforting his twin, speaking in low, reassuring tones. Lucas was on the phone, postponing his meeting with the African development team. And Sarah was the calm center of it all, her presence soothing everyone's nerves. Hours passed, the anticipation building with each tick of the clock. Finally, a nurse appeared, her face wreathed in smiles. "Mr. Chun," she said, addressing Adam, "would you like to meet your daughter?" The room erupted in cheers and tears of joy. As Adam disappeared down the hallway, Marcus pulled Sarah close. "A granddaughter," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Can you believe it?" Sarah looked up at him, her eyes shining. "After everything we've been through, I can believe anything." When Adam reappeared, cradling a tiny bundle in his arms, the family gathered around in awe. As he placed the baby in Sarah's arms, Marcus felt a surge of love so powerful it nearly brought him to his knees. "Mom, Dad," Adam said, his voice filled with wonder. "Meet Olivia Sarah Chun." Sarah gasped, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, Adam." As the baby was passed around, each family member taking turns holding her, Marcus stepped back, taking in the scene. This was his legacy, not the buildings they had constructed or the communities they had fostered, but this family, this love. Later, as the excitement began to settle, Lucas pulled Marcus aside. "Dad," he said, his voice firm with resolve, "I'm going to take that position in Africa." Marcus nodded, understanding. "I'm proud of you, son. But," Lucas continued, a mischievous glint in his eye, "I'm going to need some help setting up video calls. I'm not missing a single moment of my niece's life, no matter where I am in the world." As they rejoined the family, crowded around Sarah and the baby, Marcus felt a sense of completion he had never known before. They had come so far from those broken people who had faced each other in a park all those years ago. They had taken their pain and turned it into purpose, their loss into a legacy that would ripple out for generations to come. The Chun family's story was far from over. In many ways, with the arrival of little Olivia, it was embarking on its most exciting chapter yet. And whatever the future held, Marcus knew they would face it as they had faced everything else, together, bound by love, forgiveness, and the unbreakable bonds of family. As he looked around at his loved ones, Marcus silently renewed the vow he had made to himself all those years ago. He would cherish every moment, every challenge, every triumph. For this beautiful, messy, imperfect family was the greatest second chance he could have ever hoped for. The backyard was alive with laughter and conversation. Marcus, now in his mid-70s, sat on the porch swing, taking in the scene before him. Sarah, her silver hair gleaming in the fading sunlight, was deep in conversation with Adam's wife. The twins, successful in their own rights but still inseparable, were entertaining the younger children with elaborate stories of their latest adventures. And there, in the center of it all, was Olivia. At 15, she was the spitting image of Sarah at that age, with a spark of Marcus's determination in her eyes. She was gesturing animatedly, explaining something to her younger cousins, her face alight with passion. "She reminds me of you," a familiar voice said. Marcus looked up to see Lucas standing beside him, a gentle smile on his face. "Lucas," Marcus said warmly, embracing his son. "Welcome home." As Lucas settled into the swing beside him, Marcus couldn't help but marvel at the man his youngest had become. Years of working on sustainable development projects around the world had left their mark. His face was tanned and weathered, but his eyes sparkled with the same idealism that had driven their family's mission for so long. "How does it feel to be back?" Marcus asked. Lucas sighed contentedly. "Like coming home, but also